So that brings us back into re-entry, and the band that approached you after the karaoke was the band that you're in now?
No, that was a group of people that I worked with, and it was a good band, but I didn't know how to advocate for myself. I didn't know how to advocate for myself. So it was, and I'll always be grateful, to that, but for kind of bringing me back in there. But I didn't know to advocate for myself when it came to, okay, well, no, I can't do it in standard. I need to. I had done I had done a lot of choirs growing up. I had done some studio work growing up. And because even through those 10 years, there was still, if there was something, I would try and dip my toes in the water.
Sure.
And then just get discouraged if, okay, well, I guess I can't do that. But I didn't really understand a lot about the live music industry. I was, again, always kind of in this little bubble. So you join a band and it's live stage, it's live practices. It's, and I didn't know what to ask for myself. I didn't know how to advocate for myself. So when a song was in too high of a key for me, it was, hey, nope, this is what we're doing it in. I had to adjust my voice to them rather than adjusting the music.
Sure.
And I burned myself out really, really fast. Really fast. In the middle of that, I'm dealing with a domestic situation that was getting more and more violent and more and more intolerable. Like, it was just getting to the point where I was drowning.
Yeah.
And so all of these things kind of all at the same time. I was with that band for about 2 years, and I learned a lot. But I learned a lot about how to adapt to being in someone else's band. We kind of created that band all together, but it wasn't as much of a partnership as far as I didn't know to speak up and use my voice to, hey, look, this is what I need.
I don't think anybody, I don't feel like you were the what do they say, the square peg in the round hole. It probably, they would force anybody out like a splinter until they realized what they were doing to themselves, So between that and at home, you that was reinforcing the same situation basically in two different ways. So
I remember being in that band at the beginning, and again, I won't say the name of the band because I'm not trying to,
sure,
but I remember one of the musicians in that band, I didn't know not to put them, when I tell you I was green going into this band, to cover my hand with the mic, and it would cause feedback or bring the mic down. It would cause, it was a learning. And I remember one time when he covered the mic and he said, if you do that again, I'm yanking the mic out of your hand and you will not use it again. And, it was just there was underlying tones of negativity and
it's a bit much.
It was. I would leave so many shows just crying.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't fun. It was, okay, well, if you're not, you get the looks if you did something wrong. It just wasn't. Yeah. And again, I learned so much, and so I learned so much. So I'm grateful. So I'm not trying to, but it taught me what I didn't want.
Sure.
But there were some really, really good parts too of it. So it wasn't all negative. It was a learning experience in a different way this time. But I was dealing with negative there, and I was dealing with negative at home that I kind of imploded. The relationship ended really badly. And when I got out, I had to get out. And I advocate for women and men to speak up, because it's not okay.
Right.
And even if you get that something in your head that says, hey, it's not okay, it's not okay. Even if somebody's gaslighting you, telling you that you're being dramatic, that no, you should look at the life that I've given you. You should be able to tolerate that, okay, so I'm somewhat of an asshole to you, but look what you get in return.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
Right.
It's not okay.
Shouldn't be
in any
trade-off.
aspect of your life, whether it's your job, whether it's your hobby, your passion, your life, even if it's I've learned, toxicity, even in your family, just because it's your blood doesn't mean you can love someone from afar.
Sure.
You don't have to put yourself and your family in situations and around people that bring any kind of toxicity or negativity in your life. And people don't speak up for themselves the way that they should.
Well, like you said earlier, it comes on slow, and they don't realize what's happening. And sometimes it's till
or
it's
you're
too
brought
late,
up in it.
Yeah.
Or you're brought up in it in your family.
You think this is normal, right?
And you think that, okay, well, this is, how this was in my family. So, okay, well, that's how it is. And, when I finally, well, I guess that's normal. It's just the things you tolerate. Nothing in life is.
Oftentimes that happens.
Yeah, nothing's perfect. So it comes down to people start thinking in the terms of what can I tolerate instead of what do I deserve?
Yeah.
And going from that to where I am in my life now is literally night and day difference.
Yeah.
And it's
so
just
obviously you were the cause for you leaving the first band because it wasn't a comfortable atmosphere. It wasn't conducive to your growth.
It was a combination of things for the reasons that I left that band. Again, I don't like to go into specifics because I am a very much a believer in, especially in music community, you build each other up.
Sure.
You don't, when you talk to a venue, don't hire that band because or you don't do that.
Right.
But there was drama, to put it mildly, within the band and then the extended band family. Between that and then things ended so badly with my ex that when I got out, I had to get out, and I remember just crying my eyes out in the car. I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I can't do this anymore.
So the two kind of went hand in hand.
It went hand in hand.
Okay.
It went hand in hand.
All right.
And it was also intertwined that it was. I always say that relationship that I was in, we were together for 5 years. I say I was in the relationship for 2 and I spent 3 trying to get out of it. Yeah. Because when you tell somebody I don't want to be with you anymore and they turn your credit card off, they take your keys, they take your phone, and they tell you, go ahead and walk. Good luck. What are you going to do? Yeah. At that point, you're no longer in a relationship. You're a prisoner at that point.
Yeah.
When you try and walk away and they either don't let you or they make it so impossible for you. Because, again, boiling a frog, it's, okay, all right, well, your car's broken now. Let's get you a new car. Oh, we'll put it in my name since you're at home with the kids. Oh, well, let's get you a new phone, but let's put it in my name since I already have a plan. It's, let's join our bank accounts together. Oh, you go pick out a house. Whatever you want, but we'll put it in my name because, suddenly you don't realize all the power is in somebody else's hand until you turn around and you're like, no, I don't want this anymore.
Yeah.
And there is no way out. So it was, if I'm getting out of one thing, I'm getting out of it. I have to walk away from, I felt like I was dying.
Yeah.
I have to get away from all of it. And so I did. I walked away from everything. And it was hard. It was devastating. Leaving, as much as, that relationship was not good, that was the home that I lived in. As much as the band wasn't healthy, it was doing something that I loved, getting up on stage and singing. I had finally found that again. How am I going to walk away from that?
Right.
But you have to advocate for yourself, and sometimes you're put in situations where you ask God for help, for an answer. Sometimes you're not going to get that answer the way you want it.
Sure.
Sometimes it's just shoving you off a cliff because you have a hard time walking out that door by yourself. So it's okay.
Yeah.
Good luck. You'll be all right.
And your next, I guess, foray into music was
into Petty Betty, into the band that I'm in.
Okay.
So the band that I was in, I played with, we kind of switched musicians. We brought more people in the previous band, and we ended up with a drummer, Christopher Lyons, and he's probably the best drummer that I've ever worked with. Because again, kind of going into playing live music on stage, I did studio work. I did work with choirs and stuff. I wasn't used to percussion and drums, and I just thought all drums sounded, like drums.
Yeah.
And getting to know the different tonalities of how different musicians played. When we would have a fill-in, oh, well, this guitar player played, it's learning all those ins and outs of how different musicians play.
Yeah.
It was something I'd never really paid much attention to. And when we started working with Chris, I absolutely loved his drumming style. And we got to be friends. And as he was dealing with difficulties in his relationships, I was dealing with some in mine, and we became friends. And when I left that band, we became closer friends. Mm-hmm. And we ended up talking, and we ended up dating. And I remember but nobody really knew at that point. Mm-hmm. And I remember Tony Busby, the band Downfall, he called up Chris, and he was like, hey, I'm thinking of starting a new band. At this point, Chris was still playing with the previous band, but because we were talking, they were giving him a lot of pushback. But it was not a great situation. So he ended up leaving. And Tony had called him up and said, hey, I'm thinking about starting a new band. I want to do something different. Would you be interested? And Tony is in Louisiana. He's one of the most talented guitar players that I've had the opportunity to work with. And to get a phone call from him to ask, hey, do you want to start a new project with me is,
sure.
It was unexpected, and it's, he asked him, and I remember we were sitting next to each other, and he asked him, hey, and Chris was like, yeah, absolutely. And he said, do you still talk to Erica? Kind of looked over at me. He's like, yeah. He's like, do you think you could get in touch with her, see if maybe she would want to do vocals? See if she'd be interested. And he's
How
like,
about that?
And I could hear him, and he's like, yep, sure, let's do it. So what we kind of did is we picked from different bands. We started out with Tony Busby from Downfall, Adam Hollowell, who is he did rhythm and male vocals, kind of a savant. He worked at Allison's World Music and could play almost any instrument that you would hand him.
Wow. What's he doing in your band now?
He ended up having to move away about a year into it. He moved to Florida, and I think now he's in Mississippi, Alabama. But then T. Mike Galliano, he was in a band called Scary Lane, 80s like hair metal band, plays bass, a character. They're like, I don't know, you can't take a bad picture of this guy. Like, he poses, he's not just a phenomenal musician, he's just great, like genuine, like you can't be around him and not be happy and not be laughing. And then Chris on drums. So we started out with 5 people, and we practiced for about a year before we even had a show.
Really?
And just worked and worked and worked. Okay, what do we want to do that's different? What do we want to do that makes us stand out? And we were coming up with names and all kinds of stuff. And we came up with some really off the wall names. And I've always loved Betty Boop, Betty Page, Betty White for her personality and sarcasm, and I've always had a love for like the old Gershwin, and always have wanted that idea of like dressing up and all that stuff.
Sure.
And never had that opportunity. I'm like, what if we did something like, one of my main things is I want us to stand out. I want us to stand out. Do something to where when people see us, they know exactly who we are. And somehow Petty Betty kind of, and everything was, okay, we have an equal membership in this band, an equal partnership. And for the very first time when we had practice, and I was like, oh, well, and they're like, no, like what works best for you? And it was the first time I'd been asked that question.
Yeah.
In those last 2 years that I worked with the previous band, the very first time, no, you're our singer. We have to take care of your voice. What works best for you? I remember T. Mike, our bass player.
Yeah.
He calls me little sister. No, little sister, what's best for you?
Mm-hmm.
We can move keys around, and they are so patient with me. because we'll start off something, we play everything about half a step down, and I'll need to be a full step down, I'm sorry. And so they'll relearn it and do it. I'm like, no, wait, hold on. That, you know, because it comes down to, especially with having a deeper voice, it's I need it to be high enough to where I can, you know, grab those notes, but low enough to where I'm not blowing my voice out.
Right.
And I've never worked with such a good group of people that are
That's
just
great. Yeah.
so patient with me. I'm so grateful.
It makes all the sense in the world. You're shooting yourself in the foot if you're not doing that, because the singer's not going to have the vocal range of every instrument. You know what I mean? So it makes sense to find where you're comfortable, where you can cover it best. You know.
And it's
then
night and day
hang
difference.
the elements around it. You know.
Yeah. And it's night and day difference. We've been together now for 4 years. And every time we get together for practice, I look around at these guys and I'm just so thankful and so grateful every time they're willing to change a key, or okay, cool, we'll go over it again, or okay, yeah, we'll relearn it. I'm just the gratitude that I feel, and every single person has an equal voice. We're a family.